On today's episode, I'm gonna talk about something. It's
What are we
been,
gonna talk about?
well, I don't know, cowgirl. What you got going on over there? She chose to wear the cowboy hat today. I was wondering what was going on.
I'm a cowgirl.
Look at you, look at you. Well, no, can you believe it's coming up on next month is gonna be 7 years post-stroke?
7 years. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Time just goes away from you when
Yeah.
you're not really thinking about it, honestly. When it doesn't come into your mind every second of the day, it's kind of crazy.
Well, for you, it's not every second of the day. For me, it is.
Yeah.
For me, it is.
Well, I mean, back in 2018 when it first started, yes. I mean, it was happening right up there, and I was thinking about it all the time, and you know, it was every second of the day. And then now, things are different. Life is different, but you know, how did we get here?
Well, let me just say this. Let me give you a history. You know, for those of you that don't know, most of you do. Most of you lived it with me. But in 4/11/2018, I had what was called it's really called a thrombosis, which means the main vein in my brain going to my brain burst. And I bled out on one side and had swelling, so my left side was paralyzed. I ended up in a coma for 7 days. Before the coma, I ended up having a mini stroke and 2 seizures. So, you know, I spent 7 days in a coma, first medically induced, and then second, just waiting for me to respond and wake up. And I had to rehab, had to relearn how to live life. You know, I had to learn to talk, walk, everything all over again like a little kid. It was kind of funny, like my mom would come and see me in the hospital and I'd be showing her something new and I'd see the excitement on her, you know, kind of like, almost like being a little kid learning to walk and talk and seeing all the exciting things that a person can do and grow and to develop into. But one of the things it taught me is truly how to relive my life.
I think it didn't just teach you how to really live the life. It's, you know, how to live everybody to learn how to live life differently. I think I took a lot of lessons from it too. It wasn't just, you know, that I could just say, okay, this is our life now. This is what we do. You know, now, you know, we're in hip hop and we're riding motorcycles and we're doing this and that and the other and we're living this. And all of a sudden, you know, when you had that stroke, it was like, or when you had the thrombosis, when you were in the hospital, life changed. Life changed for not only you, but it did for me too. And there's a lot of things that I had to learn myself. I had to learn that I had to, you know, pull on my big girl pants and get up and move on. And you know,
That's why you're wearing that. That's why you're wearing that today.
It's all in my head, so you know.
Okay.
But anyway, we did have to, you know, relearn life. Well, both of us had to relearn life. I had to relearn how to live with you post-stroke.
Yeah, because I'm a very different person since then.
Yeah, definitely. You know, before, you know, you were a different person, whether you would respond to something that I had done or the kids had done or somebody else had done in a different way. And now it's the totally opposite of the way that you had responded before. Before it would have been like you were very emotional about things, and now not so much emotion is being portrayed when you're responding to something. Of course, there's emotion in everything, but the emotion is different. It's not as strong. It's not as, and I'm not saying that it's not as strong in a good way. The bad emotions are no longer as strong as they were.
Well, I think really, I think back then, one of the things I know that I was focused on is I was very task driven, and if people didn't line up to the tasks, then I would get emotional. And I don't think, and I saw something the other day that really made, or even today I think it was, I saw something in TikTok somewhere where it talked about, you know, that maybe Generation X, so to say, was the men were never really taught how to manage their emotions. And I think that's kind of where I was. I just, you know, I had 2 emotions. I had very, very extreme anger and very, very extreme happiness. And 9 times out of 10, you only ever saw the anger. You never saw anything between, and you rarely saw the happiness. Those very few got to see the happiness. But I think for the most part, you know, I didn't know how to control. I didn't know how to regulate my emotions. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, and I think that post-stroke, that you have been able to learn how to regulate the emotions, and I think that you've taught me a lot of that too, how to regulate what I'm feeling, and I'm not good at it. I'm not perfect at it, but I think that's something that we both have learned, is how to regulate our emotions.
Right. Well, I know. Like in the beginning, like I think I took every year. I took life a year at a time. Honestly, I think like the first year I focused on my physical health, changing my diet, doing different things, making sure I was healthy, making sure the body itself was healthy, because, they never told me what caused it. So there was no real thing that I can attack. So I really had to change my life. And then, the next thing I worked on was peace, was an inner peace, trying to figure out, okay, how do I manage life and not be extreme from one extreme to the other, and I just, every year since then, I spent a year focused on one individual thing to try and accomplish and overcome it, and really learn from it. I started reading a lot of books. I started really digging in. I started doing a lot of studies on the brain. I have different authors, maybe in the comments, if you're struggling with stuff like that, leave a comment. I'll give you a book list of what I went through. And it was funny, even in just changing my diet, I read a book, and just how a workout book from a guy, and talking about diet and talking about changing your lifestyle and not looking at it as a diet. So, but in that book, one of the things that really caused me to look at things differently, one of the things he said in the book was, in order for something to go from the conscious brain to the subconscious brain, you have to do it repetitiously, and then your brain goes, oh, well, this is something we're doing, like breathing. It's as important as breathing because we're doing it all the time. And so I had to learn that everything is repetition, re-navigating my neural pathways in my brain, because one of the things they said was that I would never be able to control my emotions again, because I actually have a scar in my brain where my emotion center is. And so, like, that first year, I would cry at a commercial. I mean, I was crying at everything, like tears just welling up in me, like probably something that had been built down, pushed down so much, like a volcano was just erupting, and I was having little overflows of lava, because in my case, the crying was the worst thing ever. So it was like burning, coming down lava. And so I had to learn how to manage that. I had to learn everything all over again. And like even now, there's so many lessons that I've learned from it, and I try to pass it on to other people. I've really tried to pour into you, the last 7 years, and what I've been learning,
Well, I think that in my point of view, or my role in this, if that's the right word to say, I think that even during this time, during this 7 years, I think that I have actually put myself on the back burner to make sure that everything that you're going through was better than it was before. And I know that it may not seem like that as a regular thing that we're supposed to do, but I don't know if that's just because it's a girl thing or a woman thing. But as a person, I'm ready to make sure that somebody else is doing okay before I work on myself. And I think that honestly, that some of those things that you've been saying in the last 7 years, that now I've kind of stepped back and said, hey, I need to put some of this into practice, because it's where what I was doing before was not working. And so what I need to get done now, I need to use those tools that you were pouring into me, and the tools that you have been learning, and now I'm learning from you.
Well, I know in the beginning I probably came off very, very selfishly, because I was very much in self-preservation. I was trying to make sure I was good and make sure I was healthy for you and the kids, for people around us, for our friends, for our family.
Sure.
And a lot of times there were times where I was like, I would look at you and I would say, I'm not going to deal with your negativity right now, because I want no negativity in my life, because I realized that was part of the reasons that I had the stroke.
Right.
The stress levels that negativity causes. So I began to really kind of, and I know it sounded selfish. Like, even there was one conversation I had with a person And they were like, I was really gonna start getting upset with you because I saw how you were treating Stacy. And I said, well, I'm trying to get her to take care of herself because she is so focused on trying to take care of me and trying to take care of everybody else around her that she doesn't take care of herself. And so I'm trying to get you to manage because, a lot of people say I'm morbid in some of my conversations, because I tell people all the time, I could die today. I live life as if today is my very last day.
Right.
I'm very intentional with what I've got to do in life. And so, because I know the reality, because, when that happened, I was perfectly healthy.
Right.
I just had a couple things I had to clean up in my life to be better. It wasn't major things, but, here I am 2 weeks later fighting for my life.
Right.
I can't open them. So for me, that's a reality that I can not wake up some morning, and that's very real to me. So I live with that every day. That's why I say it's every day with me,
Right.
I mean, because I live with the fact that today could be my last, and because out of that time I was gone for 7 days. I was non-responsive. I was like I always say, the devastation when I open my eyes and you guys are all like, oh, and I was like, well, this is how I came in. For me, nothing had changed, but really the lights turned off.
Yeah.
And so I had to come to terms with that. Like, I think for the first few months after that, I was afraid to sleep because I was afraid I wouldn't wake up.
Yeah.
I was terrified.
Yeah, it's definitely hard when you're going through that, and I'm not gonna say that I know how you felt, but coming from my perspective, there's some things that I did think about as you were in the coma, and that I did have to think about, well, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do if you're not gonna wake up? And there's the same thing that I had said before, the day that I had to go and I had to say that you weren't waking up to our family, I told God, I said, hey, I don't know what you're doing, but I trust you, and I trust that you're going to get me through this and you're going to get us through this. And that was the hardest thing, honestly, for me to do, is to get to that point, even in that split second, even saying that.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. But I know God's going to do something, and he's going to make it even better than what it was before.
Yeah. Well, like I said in the beginning, and I still say it now, I'm here by the power of God and the product of prayer. Everybody prayed. I mean, that was an amazing moment. I tell people all the time, like my first visit back to church, and I know I've said this before, and if you haven't heard it, I've said it before, that was probably one of the most beautiful moments in my life. Somebody had asked me about what that was like, and I said, it's probably one of the most beautiful moments in my life because, not only did I come out of it and I'm learning to be better, and I'm, here 7 years later, so much better, back on the bike, doing things that I would never imagine I could be doing, and especially since the stroke. And not only that, but just the fact that people were able to see a modern day miracle. Because 1 minute you're seeing, literally tubes everywhere, in my nose, in my mouth, in my every orifice that I have, because they were trying to keep me alive. And so, it's crazy for people to see somebody like that. Like, I've heard people tell me, I thought you were gone. I didn't think you were going to make it. I really did. And so here I am 7 years later, doing so many amazing things through the power of God and the product of your prayer. Yeah. And so it's been a journey. And one of the things that, that I really take into effect is like my mom would always tell me, I'm so worried about you because I know you're sick in a sense. And I would always be like, well, I'm fine, Mom. I'm fine. I'm good. Look at me. But I have to take into consideration that, I am impacted. I tell people all the time, when something dramatic like that happens to you, you walk away changed. You walk away different. You are not the same person. And so, like, I've come to realize even recently, like, illnesses, sicknesses, like a cough or a cold, hit me so much harder. And so it's like back to that first year. It's like I'm out. It takes me out. Like, I've had to reorganize my whole life. Like, Like, I know I make people mad, but like Monday through Friday when I'm working, I don't talk to nobody because I know how much energy and how much outgiving I give on the weekend to other people and what I do and what I'm involved in, that I have to reserve that energy for that weekend. So like Monday through Friday, I really don't. I'm like a hermit. I don't talk to nobody. I don't, because I know I have to reserve that energy for the energy that's going to be expounded on the weekend.
Well, that's funny that you say that it's kind of switched a little bit, that you, because when you first came out, we were always doing something. When you first came out of the coma, we were always doing something. Like, it was weekend after weekend after weekend that we were still moving and we were still going through something. Like, we were traveling to different locations to, give your testimony, and we were going here, we were going there, and we were still doing this. And then all of a sudden I was like, man, we better slow down, because this is not going to be good for you. Because I know that at one point, I recognized the effects of what was happening, because even though we were going and going and going, you were still not able to heal like you should have, because you would be talking and having a great conversation and having fun and laughing, and all of a sudden split like that. You wouldn't talk. Like
mid-sentence. Like, it was funny. It was like, I'd be like, yeah,
and then that was it. And then I was like, oh, it's time for us to go. We gotta go, because I started recognizing those signs. Obviously I didn't know right away, but those signs were definitely something that I could see that you were needing for us to be able to slow down, or to stop doing what we were doing, or we needed to just go, because it was time, and your brain needed to have that time to heal. And so even now, I guess I need to recognize that as a sign as well, because I do get upset with you sometimes. Like, come on, let's go do something. But that's just because that's the lifestyle that we've built, to keep going and keep going and keep going. But then I have to really recognize that, not only can you not do that, but even for myself, I have to say, I better slow down a little bit too, because, I'm not saying, and I'm not speaking anything coming and just saying that that's going to happen. But the thing is that I still have to take care of myself, and I have to be like, okay, I can handle this much. I can't handle this much, but I can handle this much. And I have to recognize that that's what I can handle at this time. And if I can handle something else, then we'll revisit that conversation,
Well, and that's one thing I've learned, is living inside of my own limitations. Because again, when I first came out of it, I was like, da-da-da, Superman. We got to go all over. We got to do this. And I thought I can do everything. And I realized I do have limitations. I do have, like my life is dramatically impacted by it. I can't deny it anymore. I used to say, well, no, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. We can do it. But now I've learned to take advantage of those moments when we're not doing anything. Right. To not do anything. Right. To not fill the time with something just because I have the time. Right. But really, like even recently, like especially in the wintertime now, we have a lot of down weekends, and sometimes I'm in bed all week, all day. I don't get out of bed. And I know you want to go places. I know you want to go shopping. You want to go do this. You want to do that. But I'm like, well, go do it. You go do you. I need to take advantage of this time. Yeah. And it's like, even now, like I think people, I know I've changed, because people have told me you do not talk, you do not act, you do not come off the same as you did before. And one of the things is I refuse to fill the silence with noise. Like, sometimes if I don't have anything to contribute to a conversation, I don't contribute. Right. It's not because I think you're a jerk, or I think I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to have nothing to do with you. It's just I have nothing to contribute. So why expound energy, expound my mental capacity on something that I don't need to be involved in? I can just sit there and enjoy a conversation that's happening among friends, and not have to have an input or have to have an opinion. Right. And I know that comes off on people like I'm a jerk, I'm an a-hole, or whatever. Right. Well, there's in real time, we just had a conversation when I was trying to engage you in a conversation, and it wasn't necessarily that you weren't ignoring me or anything, but I did ask. I said, hey, is there something wrong? Are you mad at me? Are you upset with me? And you just shared with me, and you said, you know what? I don't have to fill every second with noise.
I don't have to fill every second with a conversation. And just because I don't have a conversation with you doesn't mean that you're upset with me. So that's something that we've had to learn, we've had to go through, and I have to learn that from you too. Is that there's not always, just because you're silent doesn't mean that you're mad at me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people think. They think just because I'm silent that, I have a feeling of whatever. I can't, I don't know what they're gonna come up with. And then another thing I know that I do now, and it's very frustrating for you, is I've learned where I end and other people begin. So I no longer take on somebody else's life. I don't take responsibility for somebody else's life. I'm responsible to people, but I'm not responsible for people. So like there's times where you say this has to happen, but it's not my job to make it happen. It's your job.
Right.
So I don't focus my energy on trying to figure out how to make that happen.
Right.
Because sometimes you don't ask me, well, how do I do this? How do I figure this out? You don't ask me, so I don't see an invitation for me to be involved in whatever that change that needs to happen in your life.
Right.
And I know that frustrates you sometimes because you're like, well, this was supposed to get taken care of months ago. Well, why didn't you take care of it? And then you're mad at me like, well, I told you about it. Well, how is that my responsibility? If that's something that's on your plate to take care of, that's something you need to take care of. And I think that makes people upset too, because I think they sometimes think, well, you've done this before, so you should be the one doing it. And I don't. And people are like, well, I guess, and I don't mean to be that way, but I've learned that it's that limitations. I've learned that for years and years and years, I took on so much. I took on other people's lives and making sure they were successful and making sure they were taken care of and making sure that things were happening in their lives when really it was their responsibility to take care of that, not mine.
Right.
I was only responsible to give them the tools, the education, the doorway to walk through. But again, it was up to them to walk through it and fulfill the things that were supposed to be going on in their lives.
Right. And I think that's the hardest lesson that I've had to learn too, is that, like in real time, of course, that there's things that I have to be able to take care of and to understand that if something needs to get done, then I can't just say, okay, well, I'll just wait for you to do it. I have to say, okay, I need to, like, if I have to have a bill paid, I need to be the one to set that money aside and say, okay, well, that's what this money is for. This money is to make that payment. This money is to do this, and this money is to do that, or whatever. And I've had to learn that. And because, for the longest time, for the first years of our lives, not just after stroke, but, the first part of our lives, I've relied on you for everything, paying bills and taking care of taking care of food. What are we going to do with this food? Making sure the electricity is turned on, making sure that, whatever it is that we need, I've relied on you to be the one to do that. And that does put a lot of stress on a single person, even though, that's kind of what you signed up for, but I know what you're saying, and I understand, and I'm just messing with you right now, but, it's like, I have to understand, just like you said, I have to learn what part is my part to play in this. It's not like you said, where do I end and where does somebody else begin? But at this place I'm saying, okay, well, this is where I play. So what do I do with what I play with?
Right.
Or what my part is in this place that I'm supposed to play.
Well, right. But like even more, I think the biggest thing is focusing on and learning what are each other's strengths. And letting the person with the strength in that area take on that thing. Like for me, I was taught to cook. I was taught, my dad cooked. He always used to make fried rice. He always used to make, different things. My mom cooked. They all taught me how to cook. And so, my grandma cooked for me all the time. So I was around people that taught me how to cook. And so cooking is really in my thing. Right. Not as much as with you. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a dig. But, so for me to cook is a lot easier than for you. And I think I saw a TikTok. Again, I'm referring to a lot of TikToks because, again, I've learned to learn outside of the box. And so, like, I saw a TikTok one time that they're talking about the roles of men and women and how women want to be taken care of, when really the thing is they think, well, you're not taking care of me because you're not doing all these things for me. Well, really, we do different things. Like
Right.
the typical role from our male is to make sure the bills are paid, to make sure the yard's taken care of, making sure snow's removed when they're working on the cars, and the woman usually, I'm not saying this is how it is, but just usually the women take care of what goes on in the house.
Right.
But I think in the aspect, when you come together with anybody, whether it's marital, whether it's friends, whether it's family, you really start allowing the person that has strength in that area to take on that thing
Right.
and run with it. And again, that's that whole learning where I end and you begin. You know, I
Right,
start
right.
utilizing and saying, okay, well, you're strong in this area.
Right.
You know, because if not, then you just make another person weak. I think sometimes relying on other people to take care of things makes you weak, so that when that person's not around anymore, you don't know how to live.
Yeah, that's true.
You
That's
don't.
true.
You know, and that's why, again, especially since the stroke, I've really tried to focus on, you know, you need to learn how to handle this. You need to learn how to handle that. Let me teach you these things. Let me build up the strength in you to handle these issues, because, you know, reality is I could be gone tomorrow.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
2018 proved that.
Right.
You know, I thank God every day that I'm still here, that my mental capacity is not diminished. It's come back stronger. I've learned so much since then, because a lot of people don't come back.
Right.
You know, even on my floor, everybody on my rehab floor gave up. You know,
Yeah.
they didn't want to do the normal things. They didn't want to press forward, because they're in their mind, their life had ended. And for me, it didn't, and I was fighting to get back. And so, you know, again, but like I said, like, even I know it scares you sometimes, like especially now when I get a headache or something, you're like, I think the other day we went through it, because I've been sick recently, you know, and I don't share this a lot. I don't talk about this a lot, but I've been sick since probably New Year's Day. I've been on and off with something, fighting something, and trying to maintain, because again, when I get sick, it hits me like 10 times worse than it would hit a normal person. And, you know, if I try and act like I'm Superman and don't give my body the time to heal, and don't take the medications that I need to take to get past whatever I'm getting past, I just continue to walk diminished. And so, you know, again, since January 1st, I've been fighting something inside of me. And I think you got scared recently because my headaches have come back, and I haven't had a headache in forever since the stroke. And so I think that scared you a little bit. But
Yeah.
again, I have to learn my limitations and manage the way I have to manage.
Yeah. And I think we forget about, you know, it's not just a physical thing, but, you know, because of what you went through, I have to realize that it's not just the physical part of things that are diminished, or that are not diminished. I'm not going to say that are affected, but it is the mental as well, because a lot of, like we were talking about earlier, when you would talk to people and having fun, and you were talking and jabbing and making lots of jokes and whatever. I mean, that was like, we were all having fun and joking around, and then all of a sudden, you know, you were shut down, and that was all the mental work that you already had expounded to anybody else, as well as even now, you know, that there's a lot of mental work that goes to, you know, traveling, or whether it goes to talking with people, or whether it goes to just living life.
Right.
And I think that a lot of that we have to remember, that that's part of what we all live with, not just you as a person, not just you because of your stroke, but it's everybody. Everybody goes through something mentally, whether, you know, mental health is around, and we're all talking about that now.
Yeah,
but
that's a big thing.
You know, it's weird that we would forget about that, and how much mental work goes into just living our lives daily, even going to work.
Well, I
You know,
mean, really, honestly, if you think about it, the brain is the circuit board for the whole body.
True.
So if you don't take care of the circuit board, and you don't take care of the main thing that runs and sends the signals to the body, what's going to happen?
It's a lot to think about.
It is
It's a lot
very
to
much.
think
Again,
about.
like I said,
Yeah.
I've been spending the last 7 years really
Yeah.
researching it and trying to figure out, you
Yeah.
know, how to deal with things and how to let things go, and not have to, you know, again, take on the world.
Right.
You know, I used to tell people all the time, you know, we're sitting here like Atlas trying to hold the whole world on our shoulders
Yeah.
when it fits perfectly into his hand.
Yep.
So a lot of times what I'm trying to say to people is, it's not for us to try and figure out. It's for us to manage what we can manage,
Yeah.
and allow other things to just kind of go by the wayside.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I always tell you is I really live like religiously by the Serenity Prayer. I think in the beginning when I used to talk to you about that, you were like, oh, that's just a saying. That's just a saying. No, to me, it's a prayer.
Right.
And then until you realized it was a prayer, you know, it's like, you know, God, give me the serenity to handle the things that I can handle and to accept the things that I can and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yep.
And I really live by that. I really live by, okay, what can I fix? What can't I fix right now? Well, if I can't fix it right now, let me put that on the sideline. Let me not focus on that. Let me handle the things that I can handle right now. And maybe when the time comes, I can grab this thing and bring it back and say, okay, I can deal with this now.
Right.
And I think that's a part of managing life, re-navigating those neural pathways in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the things they explained to me in my recovery was it's like driving down the road and you come to a roadblock. Well, you can't go that way anymore because the road is blocked. So you've got to figure out which way you've got to go, because you still got to go where you got to go, but you got to find a new way, a new avenue for that to get where it gets you where you need to go. Well, it's the same way in your brain. You know, when things don't work like they used to work in your brain, you've got to find a different way to make it work so you can still get the information to where it needs to go.
Yeah,
So-
we can't focus on those detours.
No, we can't focus and treat the detour like a stop sign. I mean, I think sometimes that's what we do. We just sit there and we look and we look and we look and we look at the problem, and we don't come up with a resolution.
Right.
We don't come up with a different way. We're just stuck on the same way, and we're waiting for that way to clear out. And we got people behind us waiting on us, honking at us, saying, "Get going, get moving," and we need to move.
Right.
We need to figure it out.
Right. No,
And that's what I've had to learn. You know, especially the obstacle of a thrombosis, of the stroke,
Yeah.
having to relearn how to live life again. And again, my life is totally different than it ever has been.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I have to agree with you, you know, like you're saying that, you know, it's the most beautiful thing that you had to go through, the experience that you had to go through. And I'm seeing that. I'm realizing it even now. Not that I didn't understand what you were talking about before, and not that I didn't understand what you were saying. It's just, you know, each one of us learns differently. And, you know, I just still have to, again, get away from, you know, worrying about what's happening with you and start learning to start fix myself, you know.
Yeah. We could go on and on about this. I mean, we talked about writing a book. I can't believe it's been 7 years. I think I still got the parts that I wrote to start off that book. So I think we need to get back into that and figure that out and look at that and write that book and get that book written.
Yeah. It's there. I have all of my stuff in there, but you know, I gotta get past the detour in my mind, you know.
Yeah, I know. We've been working on that.
Detours are all around.
Well, that's all we got for you today. Just wanted to share a little bit about, you know, where I'm at in my life, you know, and again, the reality of things sometimes. And so here we are. Again, if you have questions, leave some comments. If you have anything, you know, hit me up. Leave me a comment in some way, or you know, find me on Facebook and reach out to me. But either way, you know, like I always say, be blessed, y'all.
Be blessed.
And don't forget, like, follow, share.
Make sure
or
you
in this
go
case, subscribe.
subscribe. Make sure you're looking us up and the breakdown with Lito and Liberty. Peace out.
Out.
Oh, out.
Lovely stuff.